Tell me about content.
Content is almost the story. I tend to differentiate content and structure. Structure is the sort of the sequence of what happens, and content is the storyline. One of the things I'm very conscious in NLP courses, and this is listening to participants, who've been on course a number of years ago, and they're now being totally honest about what went on and that sort of thing, is that NLP tends to work as a process. When we listen to somebody, we're not really listening to their content. We're not really worried whether they're concerned they had a green dress, they had a red dress, they were upset with somebody who happened to be called Fred Bloggs. We're interested in the process of what's going on, because if we know the process, it's easier to change the process, whereas the content, you've just got billions of bits of information and you get lost in content. And it is quite important for anybody practicing NLP that from time to time they do it totally content free, because some people get hooked on the content, and actually really what we're doing with NLP is we're looking for the underlying processes that support the frameworks, the underlying processes and frameworks that support that content.
So you would almost the atmosphere in the room be the content?
Could be.
Because I'm thinking in terms of this video, for example.
Okay.
Because me and you are talking to each other in the room, we're aware of the content. But if somebody was to watch it, they might have a completely different perception of how it actually was, because they're more aware of the structure. Yeah,
and actually we're into structure and process. When I say structure, it's almost about the process. What are the things that are happening to get a particular result? Whereas the content might give it some amount of colour, but actually it's the underlying structure. It's how people do things. What's actually going on? What's the minimum number of steps you need to do to be confident? What's the minimum number of steps you need to do to be nervous and anxious and hesitant?
I think
it's the steps we want to ascertain, not all the big picture stuff around it.
Because individuals would be so vastly different in their content that would take hours to
Absolutely. And you can talk about content is fun, it's gossip, but if you want to help somebody change, then the underlying structure of what they do is more useful. Also, it's very good practicing content free occasionally, because you may want to talk about issues that they just don't want to talk about the content about. They've been through some harrowing experience that is very, very personal to them, and NLP is really, really good because you can talk to them in such a way that they don't have to tell you anything about who it was, what specifically happened, but by just talking about some of the structure that's going on, whether they happen to have pictures, whether they were bright, where the feelings came from, what seemed to happen to create those feelings, you can actually deal with very, very personal issues in a very respectful but impersonal way.
So structure is when you're training another NLP trainer, you would purely focus on the structure, but with a kind of accommodation for how the content may be.
Yeah, sometimes you like a bit of content. It's a bit of fun, and it gets people interactive. But it's important that you can do most of this stuff without actually knowing the content. And when we work on the course bit of the